Ethan Carter had always wanted a quiet life. That was why he chose to live on Arcadia 9, a remote human colony at the edge of explored space, far from wars, politics, and the chaos of the galaxy. His farm was small but enough for him. He had a sturdy house, a field of plasma grain, and a good dog named Max. That was all he needed. But peace never lasted long in a universe full of powerful alien empires. One night, as Ethan sat on his porch cleaning his old pulse rifle, he heard something. A soft noise, almost like breathing, but heavy and uneven. Max lifted his head and growled. Someone, or something, was nearby. Ethan stood up, gripping his rifle. His farm was far from the main colony, and no one ever visited at this hour. Slowly, he stepped off the porch, moving toward the storage barn. Max followed, sniffing the air. The dog's ears twitched, his body tense. Then Ethan saw it, a figure crouched in the shadows near the barn wall. It was tall but thin, trembling as if in pain. In the faint glow of Arcadia 9's twin moons, he could see smooth violet-blue skin, long white hair, and glowing amber eyes. The sight made him freeze. An alien. Ethan had seen many species during his years in the Terran Defense Force, but he recognized this one immediately. A Tivani, a secretive, highly advanced race that rarely left their own space. Their technology was superior to most civilizations, even humans. So what was one doing here, hiding on his farm? Before he could react, the alien collapsed onto the ground, gasping for breath. Max barked but didn't attack. The alien tried to lift her head but was too weak. That was when Ethan noticed the blood. Dark blue liquid pooling beneath her. She was wounded. For a long moment, Ethan didn't move. His instincts told him to be careful. He didn't know if she was dangerous, or if she had led trouble straight to his home. But she was dying. With a deep sigh, he lowered his rifle and stepped forward. "Can you understand me?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. The alien nodded weakly. Her glowing eyes flickered. "Shelter," she whispered. "Please." Ethan hesitated. Taking in an injured alien, especially a Tivani, was a risk, but he wasn't the kind of man to leave someone to die. "All right," he muttered. "But if you try anything, I'll throw you back out." He knelt down and lifted her carefully. She was lighter than expected, her body unnaturally graceful, even in pain. Up close, he could see the wound, a deep gash across her side, as if she had been cut by a blade. Who had done this to her? And why? Ethan carried her inside, laying her down on the old med station in his workshop. The machines beeped as they scanned her, analyzing her vitals. Her breathing was shallow, but she was still alive. "Max, stay close," Ethan said as he reached for a med gel injector. The dog sat nearby, watching carefully. As he treated her wound, she flinched but did not resist. The med gel worked fast, sealing the injury with a soft glow. Her breathing steadied. After a few minutes, her eyes fluttered open. She looked at him, studying his face. "You helped me." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Would you rather I left you out there?" She was silent for a moment, then gave a slow shake of her head. Ethan crossed his arms. "All right. Now tell me, who are you, and why are you here?" The alien hesitated, as if unsure whether to answer. Finally, she spoke. "My name is Zyra. I am being hunted." Ethan frowned. "By who?" She winced, looking toward the window as if expecting danger at any moment. "Mercenaries. And my own people." That got Ethan's full attention. He had heard stories about the Tivani. They never let their own kind leave their territory. If one did, it usually meant something big. "You're saying both your own people and mercenaries are after you?" Ethan asked. Zyra nodded weakly. "I took something important." Ethan didn't like the sound of that. "And you thought hiding on a backwater human farm would keep you safe?" She met his gaze. "I had no choice. I was shot down. Your planet was closest." Ethan exhaled sharply. This was bad. If someone wanted her dead, they would come looking. His farm could turn into a war zone. Maybe he should just hand her over. It wasn't his fight. But then he looked at her, wounded, desperate, and alone. Something about her reminded him of the past, the battles he had fought, the people he had lost. With a sigh, Ethan leaned against the wall. "All right, Zara, you can stay. For now. But if your pursuers come knocking, I need to know exactly what I'm dealing with." Zyra's expression softened. "Thank you, Ethan Carter. I promise, if you give me shelter, I will give you what no human woman can." Ethan narrowed his eyes. "And what exactly is that?" She hesitated before whispering, "The key to humanity's future." Ethan had no idea what she meant, but one thing was certain: his quiet life was over. The morning sun rose slowly over Arcadia 9, painting the sky in soft hues of gold and pink. Ethan Carter awoke with a heavy heart. The events of the previous night still weighed on him, and the sight of Zara resting in the corner of his workshop reminded him that time was short. Every small sound now seemed to carry a hidden threat. After checking on Zara, who lay quietly on a makeshift cot with her violet-blue skin glimmering in the new light, Ethan stepped outside. The dew on the grass sparkled as he walked toward the barn, where he had noticed strange footprints during the night. These tracks were not like the soft imprints of the native creatures. They were deeper and more deliberate, marking the passage of someone, or something, with a purpose. His hand instinctively moved to where his pulse rifle was kept. Though he hoped for a peaceful day, the signs told him that danger was near. He paused near the fence and listened closely. In the distance, the familiar morning sounds of birds were now joined by a low, steady hum. It was the sound of engines, far off at first, but growing steadily louder. A chill ran through Ethan's body as he thought of the warning he had received on his old communication unit. A friend in the Terran Defense Force had mentioned unusual ship activity in the area. Those voices had been cautious, and now Ethan understood why. Returning to his workshop, Ethan found Zara awake and watching him with amber eyes full of concern. Her gaze was soft yet determined, and even in her weakened state, she seemed to carry a deep secret. "They are coming," Ethan said in a low voice. "I heard the engines, and I saw new tracks. We do not have much time." Zara's voice, though quiet, held the weight of her troubled past. "My people are searching for me," she explained, "and mercenaries have been sent to bring me back, dead or alive." Her words made Ethan's heart tighten. He remembered the deep wound from the previous night, and he knew that every minute counted. "We must prepare," he added. "I will secure the perimeter, and we must be ready for their arrival." Ethan and Zara set to work quickly. Ethan began by reinforcing the farm's old wooden fences with spare metal plates and scattering small obstacles along the usual paths. He remembered his training from years of service and used his knowledge to create a network of early warning signs around his property. At the same time, Zara, though still weak, studied the farm's layout with surprising insight. She pointed out blind spots and areas where an enemy might hide, and together they planned a defense that was simple yet effective. The distant hum grew into a constant drone, and soon shadows appeared on the horizon. Ethan peered through his binoculars and saw sleek, unfamiliar vehicles gliding over the open fields. Their movement was precise and measured, like a well-rehearsed dance of machines. Each passing moment made Ethan more aware that these were not random visitors. They were hunters, closing in with clear intent. Inside the workshop, the tension was palpable. The silence was broken only by the occasional beep from the communications unit and the soft murmurs of discussion between Ethan and Zara as they refined their plans. "I know you have a secret that can change the future of your people and ours," Ethan said, his voice steady despite his worry. "But I need to understand what I am protecting us from. Who exactly is coming?" Zara hesitated for a moment before answering, her voice barely above a whisper. "My own people, the Tivani, do not take kindly to those who stray from our ways. I took knowledge that I was not meant to share, and in doing so, I have made many enemies. They see me as a traitor, and they will stop at nothing to reclaim what I took." Her words were simple, yet the depth of her regret and resolve shone through. "And the mercenaries, they are hired guns who follow orders without question. They come for the prize, not to understand the truth behind it." Ethan nodded, absorbing every word. His simple life on Arcadia 9 had been peaceful until now, and he knew that his decision to shelter Zara would bring consequences. Still, he felt that his duty was to protect her and to help secure the future she promised. "We must be ready to fight, even if it means defending every inch of this land," he declared. The day wore on, and the tension on the farm grew thicker with each passing hour. Ethan and Zara took turns keeping watch from high points around the property. In the distance, the fleet of hunters drew nearer, and every sound, the creak of a fence post, the rustle of leaves in the wind, seemed amplified in the heavy silence. Both of them knew that the moment of confrontation was fast approaching. In a quiet moment before the inevitable clash, Ethan looked at Zara and saw the determination in her eyes. He remembered her promise from the night before. If he gave her shelter, she would give him what no human woman could, a key to a better future for humanity. Though he did not fully understand what that meant yet, Ethan trusted that this secret was worth the risk. It was a promise of change, a promise of hope in a troubled galaxy. As the sun began its slow descent, casting long shadows over the land, the sound of engines was now unmistakable. The hunters were nearly upon them. With resolve in his heart, Ethan tightened his grip on his rifle and prepared for what lay ahead. The peaceful days on Arcadia 9 were over, replaced by a struggle that would test his courage and his commitment to a new, uncertain future. Ethan Carter stood firm, knowing that his simple life and the future of humanity depended on the choices he made this day. The hunters were close, and soon the hidden secrets of the universe would be revealed in the confrontation that was now inevitable. Ethan Carter and Zara sat quietly in the small workshop as the evening light softened outside. The air was filled with a mix of worry and hope. After a long day of hard work preparing the farm, they now had a moment to speak calmly. Ethan leaned against a workbench, and Zara rested on a makeshift cot. The only sound was the soft hum of the old machines and the distant rustle of the wind in the fields. Zara looked at Ethan with eyes that shone with both pain and determination. In a gentle voice, she began to explain her secret. "Ethan, I did not come here by chance," she said. "I have in my possession knowledge that can change the way humans live. It is a secret of my people. It is a power that can help your kind move forward." Her words were soft, yet they carried the weight of many years and deep regret. Ethan frowned slightly. "What do you mean by change the way humans live?" "I have a simple life here on Arcadia 9. I farm, I take care of my home, and I protect what I have. I do not understand why my life should be mixed with these large secrets of the stars." He paused, searching Zara's face for answers. Zara sighed and took a slow breath. "My people, the Tigani, have discovered a method to harness energy in a way that no one else can. We call it the luminance technique. It can give power to whole cities, help in healing many illnesses, and even protect a planet from great harm. I learned of this secret at a very young age, but I also learned the rules that said this knowledge was not for sharing. I broke those rules." Her voice wavered, but she continued. "I took it because I believed that sharing it would bring hope to those who need it. But now my people see me as a traitor, and they want the secret back." Ethan listened carefully. He had fought many battles in his past, but this was a new kind of challenge. "So you have something that could help humanity, and you are on the run from your own people because you chose to share that secret," he said slowly. His mind raced with the possibilities. If the secret was real, it could help protect human colonies from dangers and give them a new way to grow and thrive. Zara nodded and continued. "I made a choice when I left. I chose to share my hope instead of keeping the secret hidden. I know that my decision has brought danger upon me. That is why I had to hide on your quiet farm. I believe that if I could find a safe place, I might have a chance to help someone who needed a new beginning." Her voice was gentle as she looked at Ethan, her eyes filled with an unspoken promise. Ethan took a deep breath and considered her words. The idea of a secret that could change humanity was both exciting and heavy with responsibility. "If I give you shelter and protect you, what exactly will you give me in return?" he asked. His tone was calm but full of curiosity. He was a man who had lived a simple life, and the offer was both mysterious and promising. Zyra's face softened into a faint smile. "I promised you once, if you give me shelter, I will give you what no human woman can. I will give you the key to a better future. I will share the knowledge of the luminance technique with you. It is not just a tool of power, but a way of life that can bring peace and progress to your people." She paused, letting her words sink in. "This is the deal I offer you, Ethan. I trust that you will see the benefit of this knowledge and use it to build a brighter future for all." Ethan thought about the promise. His life on Arcadia 9 had been quiet and unremarkable, but now he felt the stir of something greater, a chance to make a difference not only in his own life, but in the lives of many. He looked into Zyra's eyes, which held both a plea and a vision for a better tomorrow. "I want to help," he said simply. "I want to see my people grow stronger and happier. But I need to know more about this knowledge. How does it work? And what must I do to learn it?" Zyra reached out and gently touched Ethan's hand. "The luminance technique is based on balance," she explained. "It is about using the energy around you and within you to bring harmony to a community. It is not about force or control, but about understanding and sharing light. The secret is in knowing how to harness the energy of stars and planets and use it to power the things you care about: homes, healing devices, even the simple machines that help you on your farm." Her explanation was clear and simple. It is a way to make life easier and more secure without causing harm. Ethan listened intently, feeling the weight of her words. The idea of a power that could change lives, heal wounds, and help a community grow filled him with hope. He thought about his own struggles and the challenges his neighbors faced on the colony. "And you trust me to use this knowledge wisely?" he asked, his voice steady. Zyra nodded. "I do," she said. "I have chosen to risk everything because I believe in the strength of humanity. I have seen how human spirit and determination can overcome any hardship. This knowledge will not fall into the wrong hands if you are the one to keep it safe. I ask for your protection and your faith, and in return, I will share all that I have learned." For a long moment, silence filled the workshop as Ethan weighed her words. He knew that accepting this deal would change his life forever. He would no longer be a simple farmer on a remote colony. He would become a keeper of a great secret that could lead humanity to a new era. Finally, Ethan spoke with a calm resolve. "I will protect you, Zyra. I will keep you safe here on Arcadia 9. And I promise to learn and use this knowledge to help my people. We will work together, and I will do everything in my power to ensure that this gift is used for good." A small smile crossed Zyra's face, one filled with relief and gratitude. "Thank you, Ethan," she said softly. "This is the start of a new journey for us both. I know it will not be easy, but together we can build a future that is brighter than anything we have known." In that quiet workshop, as the day turned to evening, a promise was made, a promise that would shape the destiny of both a lone farmer and an exiled alien. The deal was sealed with trust, hope, and the understanding that sometimes the smallest actions can change the course of history. The sky was dark and heavy as night fell over Arcadia 9. Ethan Carter and Zyra had barely finished their preparations when the sound of engines shattered the silence. The distant hum grew louder, and soon the night air was filled with the roar of alien ships. The mercenaries were coming. Ethan stood at the window, his eyes fixed on the approaching lights. His heart pounded in his chest as he checked the positions of every barricade he had set up around his farm. Outside, on the open fields, several vehicles could be seen moving in perfect formation. They were the hunters who had been following Zira ever since she arrived on his land. Zira joined him at the window, her expression a mixture of worry and calm determination. "They are almost here," she said softly. "We must be ready." Her words were simple, but they carried the weight of a secret world that Ethan had only just begun to understand. Ethan nodded and hurried to the barn, where he had stored extra weapons and supplies. He loaded his pulse rifle and checked his old sidearm, ensuring every piece of equipment was in working order. Outside, he could already hear the crunch of metal on the gravel, the sound of heavy boots as the first of the mercenaries arrived at the edge of his property. The first shot rang out. A sharp report of energy fire echoed from the darkness as one of the mercenaries opened the assault. Ethan rushed outside with Zira at his side, his face set in a mask of determination. The attackers moved quickly and with precision, their tactics showing clear training. They spread out in small groups, aiming to take control of the farm and capture Zira. Ethan ducked behind a metal barrier he had set up near the barn. He fired his rifle carefully, each shot echoing in the silent night. His training in the Terran Defense Force had prepared him for moments like this, and he moved with a confident, deliberate pace. The alien mercenaries, though more advanced in their armor and weapons, were not prepared for the cunning of a human defending his home. From her safe spot behind a makeshift barricade, Zira did not hesitate. With a calm intensity in her glowing eyes, she activated a small device hidden under her cloak. A soft blue light spread over the ground, confusing the attackers. The light shimmered and moved as if it were alive, and in a short moment, the mercenaries found themselves disoriented. Their formations broke, and chaos began to spread among their ranks. Ethan seized the moment. "Now, Zira," he shouted, and together they moved through the confusion. Ethan led a small group of local farmhands who had taken up arms at his call, while Zira used her own alien skill to disable the enemy's equipment. The sound of battle filled the night, a mix of energy blasts, shouted orders, and the clamor of combat. One of the mercenaries managed to break through the makeshift line and ran toward the workshop. Ethan saw him and sprinted after him. With careful aim, he fired his sidearm, stopping the enemy in his tracks. At the same time, Zira ran to intercept another attacker who was trying to flank their position. She moved gracefully despite her weakened state, her violet-blue skin almost blending with the night shadows. Her precise strikes sent the attacker sprawling to the ground. The fight was intense and hard-fought. Ethan's mind raced with thoughts of his quiet life before all of this, now replaced by the brutal reality of war. He remembered all his training and used every tactic he knew. He set traps, used cover, and worked with a calm focus that surprised even him. Every shot and every step was measured, making sure not to waste a moment or a bullet. In the thick of the battle, Zira and Ethan fought side by side. Their actions complemented each other perfectly. While Ethan's human ingenuity and experience led the defense, Zira's otherworldly knowledge of energy and technology provided unexpected advantages. Together, they created a wall of resistance against the overwhelming numbers of the attackers. At one point, the enemy regrouped and launched a coordinated assault on the main farmhouse. Ethan's heart sank as he saw the large group of mercenaries closing in. He quickly directed everyone to take up positions along the rear and flanks of the house. Zira, with a look of fierce determination, activated another small device that created a temporary force field around the farmhouse. The force field shimmered and pulsed with soft light, and for a few precious minutes, it held the enemy at bay. Despite their best efforts, Ethan knew that this battle was only the beginning. The mercenaries would not stop until they had captured Zira or killed anyone who stood in their way. Even as the enemy began to fall back in disarray from the traps and the force field, Ethan heard the distant sound of more engines coming closer. Backup from the Terran Defense Force would take time to arrive. For a brief moment, the night was silent. Ethan looked around at the scorched earth and the fallen enemies, and he saw the tired faces of his friends and neighbors. They had all risked everything to stand by him. Zira, still near his side, looked at him with gratitude and quiet strength. Though the farm was scared by the fight, hope still burned in the eyes of everyone present. Ethan spoke in a low but clear voice. "This is our fight now. We must hold on until help arrives. We have to protect this land, and we must protect Zyra. The future of our home, and perhaps of humanity, depends on what we do tonight." Zyra nodded in agreement. "I am with you, Ethan. Together, we will see this through." Her voice was soft but strong, carrying the promise of a better future. As the remnants of the mercenary force retreated into the darkness, Ethan and Zyra, along with the brave defenders of the farm, prepared for what was to come next. The battle had been won for the moment, but the war was far from over. In that fierce night, a simple farm had turned into a fortress of hope, defended by a man's courage and an alien's secret promise. In the quiet that followed the clash, every soul present knew that their lives had changed forever. The fight had been hard, but it was a fight worth having. A fight that would shape the future of Arcadia 9 and the destiny of a world standing on the brink of something new. In the quiet hours after the battle, the defenders of Arcadia 9 gathered in a safe corner of Ethan's property. The night was calm now, with only the low murmur of distant engines hinting that help was still on its way. Ethan, Carter, and Zyra sat by a small campfire, the gentle glow reflecting in their tired eyes. Although the fierce conflict had subsided for the moment, both knew that danger still lurked in the shadows. Ethan stared into the dancing flames, thinking about how little he had expected his life to change. Just days ago, he had been a simple farmer, enjoying the peace of his remote colony. Now he was caught in a struggle that could alter the fate of many. Beside him, Zyra's violet-blue skin seemed to glow softly, her eyes revealing both pain and a fierce determination. After a long silence, Zyra finally spoke. "Ethan, I need you to understand something." She began in a calm, steady voice. "I left my people because I saw a truth that they refused to acknowledge. I realized that my own race, the Tivani, values strict order and control above all. They believe that every being must obey their rules without question." Ethan looked at her, his expression a mix of curiosity and concern. "So, you mean to say that your people cannot see the strength in chaos, that they fear the unknown?" he asked slowly, choosing his words carefully. Zyra nodded. "Yes," she replied softly. "They see humans as unpredictable, as wild cards. But it is exactly that unpredictability which gives you an edge. Humans are not bound by strict rules. You feel, you adapt, and you learn from every challenge. I have seen the spirit of humanity in your eyes during the battle tonight." Ethan leaned back, absorbing her words. He remembered every moment of the fight, the way he had rallied his neighbors, the courage that had surged within him even when the odds were against them. "I have always believed that strength is more than just physical power or advanced technology," he said quietly. "It is about heart, will, and the courage to face what seems impossible." Zyra's gaze softened as she continued. "My people, the Tivani, live by rigid laws. They believe that every step must be calculated and every decision preordained by ancient rules. They see freedom and creativity as threats to order. But you, Ethan, show that there is power in being unpredictable. That is why I came to you." For a few minutes, the only sound was the crackle of the fire. Then Zyra began to share more of her painful past. "I was once part of the Tivani elite. I was raised to follow our customs without question. But as I grew older, I began to see that these rules were meant to limit us, to keep us in line and stop us from exploring new ideas. I saw how our society became stagnant, how we lost the spark of innovation and passion." Her voice grew softer, carrying the weight of regret. "I wanted more than that. I wanted freedom, the freedom to choose our own paths and to embrace the unexpected. I saw that in humans. I saw that you all have the ability to learn from your failures, to rise after every fall. That is the wild card. It is not a flaw. It is a strength." Ethan's mind raced as he thought about the battles he had fought, the hardships he had overcome, and the moments when the unplanned had saved the day. I have always believed that our choices, even the mistakes, make us who we are, he said slowly. Perhaps it is our unpredictability that makes us strong. Zira smiled gently, her eyes reflecting the fire's light. That is why I chose to risk everything. I stole the secret of the luminance technique, a method of harnessing energy that can bring light and healing, and that can power entire cities. I knew that if I kept this knowledge hidden, nothing would change. But I also knew that my people would never allow me to share it with the universe. I had to escape to find a place where I could offer hope. Ethan listened, feeling a mix of admiration and responsibility. He realized that accepting Zira into his life was not merely a chance act of kindness, but a decision that might lead to a new future for his people. So you believe that if humans learn this secret, they can build a better future, a future where progress comes from creativity rather than rigid control? He asked. Exactly, Zira replied. This knowledge is not meant for destruction. It is meant to nurture growth, to mend what is broken, and to provide strength when all seems lost. It is a gift, a way to transform the chaos of life into a force for good. The fire crackled, and in the soft light, Ethan saw not just a wounded alien, but a visionary who had chosen to defy her own people for the sake of freedom. I can see now that what makes us unpredictable is also what makes us special, Ethan said, his voice filled with a newfound resolve. Every human being carries within them the potential to surprise the universe, to challenge the status quo, and to make a change. Zira reached out and placed her hand over his. Your courage, your willingness to act even when you are afraid, that is the true power of humanity. I have seen it in the midst of battle, and in the quiet moments afterward. I believe that this wild card, this spirit of freedom, will be the key to a brighter tomorrow. As the night deepened, their conversation turned toward the future. They discussed how the luminance technique could be shared with trusted allies and used to protect human settlements from further threats. Zira explained that the ancient data codes, which held the secret, were hidden carefully and would only be passed on to those who truly valued freedom and progress. Ethan promised that he would learn the technique and safeguard it. He thought of his neighbors, his friends, and the entire community that had stood by him during the battle. I will do everything I can to make sure that this gift is used for good, he said firmly. In that quiet moment, under a sky filled with countless stars, the bond between a brave human and a determined alien grew ever stronger. They both knew that the days ahead would be fraught with challenges and that enemies would not easily give up their pursuit. But they also believed that the unyielding heart of humanity, combined with Zira's secret knowledge, would be enough to bring about a change, a new dawn of hope and strength. As the fire burned steadily and the first hints of dawn touched the horizon, Ethan and Zira made a silent promise. They would stand together, and they would let the unpredictable spirit of humanity guide them through the darkness. The wild card had been played, and nothing would ever be the same again on Arcadia 9. The night was darker than ever before as a heavy silence blanketed Arcadia 9. Ethan Carter stood at the highest point of his property, watching the horizon where the enemy gathered. The distant hum of engines had now turned into a deep, threatening roar. The final battle had come. Every defender on the farm knew that this would be their most dangerous fight yet. Ethan's face was set in determination as he turned to his friends. The small group of farmhands and neighbors who had rallied around him had grown into a tight unit. They had fought hard through the night against the initial waves of mercenaries, but now a new and far stronger force approached. This was no ordinary band of hunters. They were Tivani warriors, and they had come in full force. At Ethan's side, Zira watched the gathering enemy with calm resolve. Her violet-blue skin glimmered faintly in the dim light, and her amber eyes burned with a mix of sorrow and defiance. She had seen her people before, the proud Tivani who valued strict order above all. Now they were here to reclaim what she had taken and punish her for her defiance. But Zira knew that she was not alone. In her heart, She carried a secret that could change the fate of all who stood with her. Ethan gathered his group near the makeshift barricades he had spent days reinforcing. "This is it," he said in a low voice that carried across the tense silence. "We must hold every inch of this land. We cannot let them take Zyra or force us to surrender." His words, though simple, sparked a renewed strength in the eyes of his neighbors. Each person knew that the future of their small community, and perhaps all of humanity, depended on their courage tonight. As the enemy forces advanced, Zyra moved quietly to a small console in the corner of the workshop. With steady hands, she began the final step of her plan. For weeks, she had secretly uploaded the ancient codes of the luminance technique to the human networks. This secret, once hidden away by her people, now shone like a beacon of hope. It meant that even if the worst should happen, the knowledge to harness a powerful energy source would be safe for humanity to use. The first wave of Tivani soldiers came over the hill. Their armor shone under the starlight, and their movements were sharp and precise. They advanced as one, their formation perfect, as if every step was planned. Ethan's group tensed, weapons at the ready. A loud signal from Ethan's sidearm marked the beginning of the fight. The defenders opened fire, and the night was filled with the sound of energy blasts and the sharp reports of pulse rifles. Ethan moved like a man possessed, his mind focused on protecting his home. He led his neighbors through the maze of barricades, using every trick and tactic he had learned from his years of service. Behind him, Zyra's eyes shone as she activated small devices placed around the farm. These devices sent out bursts of light and energy that confused the enemy soldiers, breaking their tight formation and leaving them vulnerable. In the heart of the battlefield, the clash was fierce and unrelenting. The Tivani warriors were skilled and relentless. They fought with a cold precision that spoke of centuries of strict training and discipline. But the human defenders, with their raw passion and unpredictable spirit, refused to give ground. Each moment was a struggle for survival. Every shot fired a plea for hope. At one point, Ethan found himself face to face with a towering Tivani warrior. The alien's eyes were hard and unyielding, its armor reflecting the glow of Zyra's devices. Ethan steadied himself, remembering every lesson he had learned on the field. With careful aim, he fired his rifle, and the enemy fell with a thud. Around him, the battle raged on. His neighbors fought bravely, some falling and others rising to take their place. High above the fray, Zyra continued her work at the console. She could see the enemy forces beginning to regroup, their numbers swelling with each passing moment. In a quiet, steady voice, she spoke into the communication link she had established with human commanders on nearby colonies. "The data is uploaded. Humanity now holds the key. Hold the line until help arrives." Her words were both a promise and a challenge, a reminder that even in the darkest hours, the light of hope could not be extinguished. The tide of battle began to shift. The Tivani warriors, despite their superior training, were caught off guard by the unexpected defense and the sudden burst of human determination. They regrouped several times, but each time, the human wild card, their unpredictable nature and stubborn will, turned the enemy's strategy aside. The defenders used the landscape to their advantage, luring the enemy into narrow passes where the numbers did not count as much. As the battle wore on, the first signs of dawn began to break over the horizon. The faint light of morning mixed with the smoke of battle, creating an eerie glow over Arcadia 9. The enemy, faced with a fierce and unyielding resistance, started to retreat in small pockets. Their ranks were no longer as uniform or as deadly as they had been at the start of the fight. They had underestimated the spirit of those fighting for their home. Ethan took a moment to survey the field. The ground was scared by the marks of battle, and the air was thick with the scent of ozone and burning fuel. But there was also a feeling of relief, a sense that the worst had passed for now. He saw his neighbors, bruised and tired, but still standing strong. And he saw Zyra, her eyes reflecting both the pain of the fight and the hope for what was to come. In a final surge of determination, Ethan rallied his remaining forces. "We have held them off this night," he said, his voice carrying over the quieting battlefield. "We must keep our ground until our friends from the Terran Defense Force arrive. Today, we have shown that even in the face of great power, the spirit of humanity will never be broken." Zira joined him at his side, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. "You have given us hope, Ethan," she said softly. "Your courage and that of your people have changed the course of this fight." Her words filled him with a deep sense of responsibility and pride. As the enemy forces slowly disappeared into the fading darkness, Arcadia 9 stood as a beacon of defiance. The final stand had been fought with honor, bravery, and the unyielding spirit of those who believed in a better future. In the quiet moments that followed, as the first full light of dawn illuminated the battered fields, Ethan and Zira knew that this battle was only the beginning. The key to a new future was in human hands now, and the fight for a brighter tomorrow had truly begun. Dawn broke over Arcadia 9 with a soft glow that promised renewal. The battle was over, and the sky was now filled with the gentle light of a new day. Ethan Carter stood at the edge of his field, watching as the first rays of the sun touched the scared ground. The land was quiet now, the echoes of the fierce fight replaced by a hopeful calm. Neighbors who had fought alongside him slowly emerged from their hiding places, their faces showing both exhaustion and relief. Ethan's thoughts turned to the promise he had made. He had risked everything to protect Zira, the wounded alien who had brought a secret that could change the future of humanity. Alongside him, Zira watched the sunrise with a quiet determination. Her violet-blue skin seemed to shimmer in the early light, and her amber eyes held both sorrow for the lost and hope for what was to come. In the hours following the battle, the community worked together to tend to the wounded and clear the remnants of the enemy's attack. Simple tasks became acts of unity. Neighbors helped each other rebuild barricades, repair damaged homes, and prepare food for those who needed strength to carry on. The spirit of humanity had never been more evident. Despite the scars left by war, the people of Arcadia 9 were determined to move forward. At midday, a distant rumble signaled the arrival of reinforcements. The Terran Defense Force, alerted by Ethan's earlier messages, descended upon Arcadia 9 in a fleet of sturdy transport ships. Their arrival was met with cheers and grateful smiles. Soldiers disembarked quickly, offering aid and support. Their disciplined presence contrasted with the raw, unpredictable energy of the local defenders, yet both groups shared the same goal: to protect their home and secure a better future. Ethan met with the arriving officers. In simple words, he explained the events of the night before and the secret that Zira had shared with him: the luminance technique. This ancient method of harnessing energy was more than a tool. It was a promise of hope, a means to heal, and to power a community without causing harm. The officers listened intently. They knew that this knowledge could help not only Arcadia 9 but many human colonies facing similar threats. Meanwhile, Zira was brought to a secure location where scientists and engineers gathered to study her device that had confused the enemy. She explained that the device was only a small part of a much larger system. It was built on the same principles as the luminance technique, a way to tap into the natural energy of stars and planets. Her explanation was delivered in simple, careful words that even the most skeptical officer could understand. It was clear that her technology was different from anything humans had ever seen. As the day wore on, leaders from the Terran Defense Force and local government officials held meetings to discuss the future. They spoke about the importance of the knowledge Zira had provided. The luminance technique could change the balance of power in the galaxy, making human settlements safer and more self-reliant. There was talk of sharing this secret with other trusted colonies, of building a network of defense that could protect against any future threat. It was a new beginning, a chance to create a better order, one built on hope and unity rather than fear and control. Ethan found himself at the center of these discussions, a reluctant leader whose quiet courage had sparked a change. He walked among his neighbors, listening to their stories of loss and hope. Many shared how the battle had shown them that even ordinary people could stand up against overwhelming power. His words, though few, resonated deeply. "We have seen what happens when we stand together," he told them in a town meeting. "Our strength comes from our unity and our willingness to fight for a future that is not dictated by fear." In the days that followed, Arcadia 9 slowly transformed. The community rebuilt not only its homes, but also its spirit. Farmers, engineers, and even school teachers began to learn about the luminance technique. Simple workshops were set up where Zira worked with human experts to explain the basics of harnessing natural energy. Her lessons were filled with patience and care. Even though the technology was advanced, she broke it down into simple parts so that everyone could understand. The change was not only technical but also social. The secret of the luminance technique became a symbol of a new galactic order. It represented the idea that humanity was not limited by its past, but could embrace new ideas and new power. The Tivani, who had once ruled by strict control, now seemed distant. Their old ways were challenged by the free spirit and creativity of the human people. Zira's defiance had shown that progress often comes from those who dare to break away from tradition. Ethan and Zira spent long hours together, planning the next steps. They knew that challenges still lay ahead. Other forces in the galaxy might try to claim the secret for themselves, but they also believed that with careful planning and unity, humanity could build a future where such threats were met with strength and wisdom. In the final moments of that first new dawn, as Arcadia 9 began to pulse with the promise of renewal, the community gathered in the central square. There was a sense of hope that filled every heart. People spoke of a future where the light of the luminance technique would guide them, where every settlement would be protected by a network of shared knowledge and mutual trust. Ethan looked at Zira, grateful for the sacrifice she had made and the wisdom she had brought. He realized that true strength came from the heart, a lesson learned in the heat of battle and carried forward in peace. With the key to a better future now in human hands, Arcadia 9 was no longer just a remote farm colony. It was the birthplace of a new galactic order, one that would change the destiny of humanity forever. In that moment, as the sun climbed higher and the community moved forward together, the promise was clear. Through unity, creativity, and the unyielding spirit of freedom, a brighter tomorrow was within reach.